Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Teens for Business podcast. I'm your host, Jackie.
I'm Jack.
I'm Kylan.
And I'm Ivan.
So, today, after a week of the Super Bowl, America's largest sporting event, we'll be going over everything Super Bowl related and economically. So, first of all, what are your thoughts on the games itself?
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch the first quarter of the game, but I did. But to be honest, not too much happened then, and it wasn't until the second half when things started to ramp up. I personally thought that Chiefs were shakier in the first half, definitely with not being able to get past fourth downs and end up having to do the kick. Um, but then in the second half, Chiefs turned into what they usually have been, and their defense was obviously great, and they were able to fight back and get a 19 to 19 draw before an overtime. And interestingly, I saw something on social media over the past few days that said that the Chiefs had already been preparing for any overtime related things for 2 weeks, while much of the 49ers players actually didn't know overtime rules. So that definitely gave Chiefs somewhat of a advantage going into overtime, and we saw that advantage play out, and which so I saw that which we obviously saw that the Chiefs win. And I know Kevin and Ivan are going to go off at me on this, but yeah, so that's what my perspective on the game.
Yeah, it was rough. I mean, like for first half, I think I thought the Niners were gonna win. It just um like we were holding the Niners were holding the Chiefs to basically all punts. Like our defense was doing a super good job, and then in the second half, I think our offense just stalled, and you can't give Patrick Mahomes that much time to kind of make a comeback. Just like overall, I think Niners had a very winnable game, but like there's too many mistakes. One of our players got hurt, just like trying to run onto the field. I don't know if you guys saw that, Drake Greenlaw, and yeah, that kind of that definitely hurt us. So hopefully the Niners will be back next year, but especially losing in overtime, that's super rough.
Yeah, I wasn't able to watch the game, but I was able to keep up with the scores on Google. And let's just say, like, in the first half, it was really uneventful from the scores wise. I think only like one touchdown max from like CMC, obviously, but I think it kind of ramped up in the second half when they actually started scoring a little bit and went to overtime. But yeah, it was pretty disappointing. As Kawan said, I saw that clip of um, that guy getting injured, so I think that definitely played a role because I've seen like all the behind the scenes. It's like, oh, I was like, oh wait, that guy got injured, and then like kind of I think that definitely shifted the game a little bit. Um, and yeah, I think the last play they won a trick play the Chiefs, so that was kind of embarrassing. But I just really want to highlight like Nickelodeon. I saw a lot of clips like the Nickelodeon, like the SpongeBob and Patrick. That was pretty funny. I think that's a really good incorporation into like the Super Bowl, like something kid friendly or just like a change of pace. Look, really.
Well, I need to add something that I forgot to say. This game was like actually at the end, like super like up and down. Like I was at the edge of my seat several times over the fourth quarter and even during overtime. Like one case I can highlight is the 49ers were basically 1 yard from winning the Super Bowl. Like, and then they didn't know what they were gonna do, and then just completely forgot Mahomes can play running back, and he ran over that 1 yard, got pretty much out of first down, and that was I guess that was pretty rough for 49ers, just assuming like how close they would have been from the Vince Lombardi trophy. And I think that was definitely a drench in 49ers hearts. And I think Kevin and Ivan definitely felt similar.
Yeah. I mean, I also personally was rooting for the 49ers. And yeah, no, speaking to Kai Wynn's point, I did see, or someone else, maybe it's Jack's point, how like the 49ers, like they weren't prepared for that. I saw like some clip of one of the players saying that, and just things like that. And like, obviously, like I wanted the 49ers to win, but I feel like that's like there's not a lot of blame to put besides on themselves or like their coaches, etc. Um, but just because like you know, you kind of had to prepare for it, but at the same time, like they're all professionals, so. But I just thought that was like it was interesting because at the beginning I was also still I was like, oh yeah, like the 49ers are gonna win. Like no way the Chiefs win it again this year. But that did happen. So speaking of winning again, let's make some very, very, very early 2024 season predictions. Who are your picks for AFC and NFC, and who do you think is gonna win it?
Ooh, this is tough considering that a lot of things can happen during the NFL season. Obviously, over the last season, we obviously did a review a few episodes ago and we went over a lot of the injuries that happened and the importance of the draft. And those are obviously big factors that will impact the trajectory of a team that will potentially go to the Super Bowl. Um, the Chiefs are always going to be like bona fide type Super Bowl contenders, but I think I think I'm gonna pass up on them this time with the AFC. I'm gonna go Bengals. I'm gonna give them a chance this year. I know Jackie's gonna love that. And and NFC, I'm rooting for the Lions, so I'm gonna put them there. And then I'm not, and then I'm actually gonna go Lions at the Super Bowl, but I'd love to see that happen during the Super Bowl, but I that's a little bit unlikely coming from me. And obviously 49ers, Bills are and a lot of other teams, Eagles, obviously like not considering their late season collapse. They're Cowboys, those are obviously all gonna be like title contenders and I think we should also watch out for the Jets because obviously their season didn't go from the plan from pretty much the fourth snap of the first game. So we'll definitely see what the Jets will do this year too. Maybe they could be title contenders with Aaron Rodgers as quarterback.
Yeah, I think NFC, I think Niners are going back. I know Niners just fired their defensive coordinator, so hopefully we get someone better. AFC, I think at this point I don't think you can count out Mahomes and the Chiefs, but maybe Bengals. Maybe Jackie will be happy with the Bengals, and then maybe I don't know. It's just tough because you have to go through Mahomes in the AFC. I don't see any team doing that right now.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everyone, but I would say my pick for the AFC would probably be the Ravens because they did such a good run against Mahomes. Like even though they they lost, but I still think like the Ravens have a really good chance of winning AFC next season. But for NFC, um the 49ers, honestly, they look a little shaky. Like all of their best players, their best wide receivers, like Brandon Ayuk, like they're they don't sound too happy about staying on the team. So it doesn't really look that good for the 49ers. But unless they get traded and someone as good as them or has a better emotional sentiment to the team joins, I don't think the 49ers have a good shot. So I'll be going with the Lions too.
So obviously very happy to hear that my Bengals are top of mind. No, honestly, like even if I wasn't a fan of them, I think that they would still have a pretty good chance of winning because like obviously this season Burrow was like a bunch of injuries, etc. Like the team was just very like injury heavy. But I think next year like he's gonna come back and then um I also like he has I think one of the best records against Patrick Mahomes that like except for Tom Brady, but that doesn't count because he's not even playing anymore. So I think like that probably still counts for something. And just like the whole Bengals Chiefs thing. So I think I'm still gonna go with Bengals for AFC. And then I feel like for NFC is like a little bit more difficult, but I feel like I don't know, I can't I like the Lions, but I just can't see them winning like all the way to the titleship game, like NFC. So I think my pick would still be the 49ers. Like I think there was a lot like that they can make improvements on, I think. But at the same time, I feel like they're one of the better options in the NFC. So I would actually love to see a 49ers and Bengals Super Bowl. Okay, so a little bit outside of that, and to talk about market psychology. So a large majority of NFL fans were actually like rooting for the 49ers and wanted the Chiefs downfall. Like I know like here, for example, like Ivan and Kaiwan are both 49ers fans, but like Jack, I know you can talk about this too, but personally, I wasn't like a fan of either team. Like I'm not a big fan of either, but comparatively, I wanted the 49ers to win just because like I'm like not a big Chiefs fan. So and this is like pretty true for most of the like NFL fan base as a whole. And why do you think that is?
Yeah, I can describe a little bit more about my experience. I was pretty much a neutral fan. On the day I kind of rooted for Chiefs because I wanted to troll my friends a little bit who were all 49ers fans. So, that's why I was riding a little bit of the Chiefs, even though in an earlier episode when we talked about this, I did anticipate that the 49ers were going to win. Um, in terms of like market like psychology, I know a lot of teams, I mean a lot of fans dislike the Chiefs just because of like recency because Chiefs already have won two Super Bowls over like the past like 3 or 4 years, and now they have just added a third. And this was really similar to something that happened during the Patriots during the Tom Brady era, where they collected like 6 Super Bowls over like 20 years. That's like super impressive, and I think a lot of fans didn't really like that idea of a dynasty because like the structure of the NFL is like each team will have like a chance to win like in year after year. It's a case by case basis, and definitely like I don't think fans like anticipated a dynasty that would occur uh based off of like the structure, and hence this is why a lot of fans were probably rooting against the Chiefs. And in general, like I know like the 49ers are a very, very storied franchise, and based off of that there are a lot of rivalries that are created. Most notably the one I can think of that comes to mind is the Cowboys. And based off of those like fans, like I could definitely see like a lot of fans not rooting for the 49ers either. And I think more of a general trend was that it was pretty much very like neutral going into like the Super Bowl. But what something I saw that was interesting was if the Ravens had beat the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, I think that a lot more fans would be rooting for Ravens over 49ers, which I found was really interesting.
Yeah, I actually think that like there's a lot of like Niners haters as well. I think it's just like both. Nobody wanted a Niners Chiefs Super Bowl in the first place. I think like we talked about this before. I think the vast majority of people wanted a Lions Ravens Super Bowl. So I guess when you have to pick between the Niners and the Chiefs, um, people would go for the Niners just because Taylor Swift. People like a lot of NFL fans don't like Taylor Swift, and then also like Mahomes' entire family. They like anti Mahomes as well. So yeah, I guess it's just sentiment that like Chiefs, not just that they've been winning too much lately, but they're just kind of like unlikable.
Yeah, definitely have to agree. But I think I've seen a lot of social media posts online saying like, can both teams just not win? Like, so I think it's like, oh, if you're from California, then you're obviously gonna root for 49ers. And if you're from Kansas City, obviously gonna root for Chiefs. But everywhere else in the United States, they're all neutral. Like they just don't want any team to win. So I think it's just like an unpopular Super Bowl that it's just nobody wants either team to win. First of all, you have Taylor Swift and Friends on one side, and then you have Brock Purdy and Friends on the other side. So um, I think it just wasn't a popular Super Bowl. Just not like this. Obviously, Brock Purdy is definitely very popular. So I think that's why more people were leaning towards the 49ers. But like neither side were like extremely you know, positive reaction with the fans. Like a lot of people are calling Brock Purdy like what a system quarterback. Like I think it's just a typical regular quarterback. So not a lot of people do like him, and then also Patrick Mahomes, as everyone has said, nobody really likes him and the idea of a dynasty. So just it was just like an unpopular Super Bowl, but it was kind of inevitable because both teams were really good this season, and the Chiefs were kind of ramped up in the playoffs, which they always do.
Yeah, I think those are really good points. To the point about like the maps like we saw on social media of like where every like part of the US is like rooting for. I remember like seeing those, and it would just be like obviously the Niners and then the Chiefs in the respective areas, but then like the rest of the entire United States would just be gray. And then like I remember a few of them like Ohio, like with the Bengals, like the Cincinnati, it'd just be like they want both teams to just like absolutely fail. So I just thought that was like really funny. And then also to speak about like Dynasty just really quickly, like obviously I think for dynasties it's just like not as fun to watch like if like one team is going to the Super Bowl every single year. And I think that's also part of why like the Chiefs like it's getting a little boring, you know, like respectfully, like I don't think a lot of people want to see like Patrick Mahomes and company like every single year. Like, you know, I think it's just like I think part of why the Super Bowl is so fun is that like you get like underdog teams like you just like randomly I think like going back to the Bengals Rams like the year before that, the Bengals were like absolutely like flopping. It was not good for them. So I think like upset stories like that's kind of what people want to see. That's also I think why they wanted to see like the Ravens and the Lions because like that's just not like the obvious choice, you know. So I think that definitely is a thing. And then slightly switching gears a little bit, the Super Bowl is always very well known for their ads, and they spend a lot of money and a lot of celebrity power on those ads. What was your favorite ad, or did any of them really stick out to you?
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I was eating dinner when I was watching the Super Bowl, so every time it was an ad break, I just go to eat. So I don't remember too many of the ads that did show up or remember any of them. Um, I will say though that like I know some of the celebrities that were teased in the Super Bowl and were included in Super Bowl ads included obviously Tom Brady because like, come on, he's always in the Super Bowl some way or another. Gronkowski, which is also like his partnership with Tom Brady is obviously like inevitable. And I think we also saw Lionel Messi, the new Inter Miami superstar, make a debut on one of the Super Bowl ads. And I think ads are like pretty much for most people, unlike me, they're pretty much like impossible to ignore, especially with so many like celebrities that are included on the ads, but then they didn't really stick with me this time.
I think there was one, yeah, like Jack mentioned, the Tom Brady one. I remember it was like Dunkin' Donuts. That one was pretty cool. They had a bunch of celebrities in that one, but like overall, I can't remember too much. I think the ads this year they weren't. I think they weren't as good as previous years. I'm not sure. I didn't pay that much attention to the ads as well. So yeah, I guess I'll just go with the Dunkin' Donuts one.
Yeah, honestly, like there was pretty I think there's contrary to other years, like there were pretty like negative reactions towards the ads, like the Timu one. People were freaking out over that, like how badly it was done. Like it was like written by someone who's not fluent in English. And so like so that definitely happened. But I also want to mention like despite how like controversy like, how the controversy surrounding him, Kanye's ad was definitely stood out to me because you know he was like, "Oh, we spent all this money getting the ad slot, but we don't have any money to film a real commercial." So he was saying like, "Oh, go to my website. I'll put it down. It's like easy.com." It just starts flashing. And it's like we have shoes and he just says, "Yeah, that's it." And that ads cuts off. So definitely like even though he's like questionable figure, but I still believe that commercial was definitely one of the better ads shown in the Super Bowl because that sticks with you because like you see like all these like filmed like professionally filmed ads and then with all these super like obviously super popular but like all with like 10 different celebrities in the same ad, like um and then you see Kanye's ad which is literally recorded on his phone, zoomed in on his face in a car, and he's just like stuttering, doesn't know what to say. He's like, "Oh, just go to my website," and that really sticks with you. I think that like the point of ad is really to the how to remember the ad. None of the ads I've seen really stuck with me, other unless it was like super bad, which is not really a good thing. But I think Kanye's ad definitely stood out, and definitely still remember like what he said.
That's a good point. I somehow like did not see the Kanye ad and like I wasn't paying attention to all the ads. But I think that's definitely a good point because like all of them are like the vast majority of them were like very like well filmed, and like you can tell like a lot of money, a lot of production, a lot of planning went into all the ads. And so if suddenly you're switching from this like super like saturated, like super like well done ad, and then you're going into like Kanye's like filmed on literally his phone in a car, like that's just like, whoa, like let me like actually pay attention to what's happening here, regardless of like whatever he's trying to do with the ad itself. There's also one, like I'm not like a big Beyonce fan, but I know like she like announced an album, or like she announced like some of her new like music over an ad. And I saw people on social media talking about that, and I think like that's actually such a fun like way to like announce your thing. Because like for example, like Taylor Swift, she does a lot of it like at award shows. But then like if you think about it, it's kind of like the same stage, because so many people are like listening and like watching in on the Super Bowl anyway, and like listening to the ads and everything. So like I think Beyonce's announcing new music was also very like, wow, that's interesting moment. So that definitely really caught my eye as well. Okay, so ads are sold out back in November. Like it's a really big process. And a 30-second slot costs approximately $7 million. Do you think that they're worth it? So like if you're in the shoes of a company marketing executive, like do you think that you would purchase an ad?
Yeah, contrary to what I said last year, I actually do think it's worth it because there's pretty much no other way, no other like fast way to reach hundreds of millions of audience members than on TV than through like a Super Bowl ad. Super Bowl are super popular on TV, and as of that reason, like the ad culture is obviously built up from over the years. And just to like take part in that will definitely boost like a lot of like the brand image. I will play a little bit devil's advocate here when I say like obviously we see a lot of ads and companies that bring in a lot of like celebrities, but you still have to pay them and you still have to make an ad like somewhat memorable. And that also like costs a lot of money, right? So you have to make the set, pay a lot of money to like to like this to designers who first like design the set, then you have to pay actors and celebrities to get on that set and do the recording. And that's obviously like a lot of added costs. So I think that just to like keep that like financial like situation in mind while also finding a way to make a somewhat catchy ad, which for me like I didn't see that many catchy ads, but like I know a lot of people would think very differently about that. So so I definitely think a financial thing could be like a concern, but overall like it could still be like a big benefit for like a brand.
Yeah, I agree. I know these ads are like super expensive, and these companies are probably not going to see like an immediate jump in sales, but it's just like the reach that the Super Bowl like has. It's like it's unparalleled to like anything else that you could possibly try in terms of marketing. Like by watching these ads, especially if it is catchy, people are going to be thinking about this company for a while. So it's just like I know, like despite the high cost, I think in the long run, it's probably hard to measure like your return on investment in terms of this ad. But I think in the long run, you do, if you make a decent ad, you probably do get your money's worth.
I think I would say probably I would agree, but for something a different reason, because I feel like a lot of the Super Bowl ads are are companies that are already extremely popular and people already know. So I don't think they really need the ad on the Super Bowl. I think it's more of like, hey, if I don't take this slot, will my competitor also take this slot? So like I would rather take this slot and maybe even go into like lose money instead of letting my competitor take that slot. I think that's also like some type of mentality goes through, because like I don't really believe that it's financially necessary. Like, oh, if I don't put a Super Bowl ad, I won't sell my BMW whatever electric car. That is like people are gonna know about that. Regardless or not you have a Super Bowl ad. It's I think it's like if okay BMW doesn't do it, maybe Mercedes will do it, and that would just hit BMW hard, because everybody would start, you know, like saying like, oh, why did BMW not put it in that Mercedes did? So maybe Mercedes doing better off, financially wise, something like that. But also like I think Super Bowl ads are like kind of like you don't think about World Cup ads, you don't think about you know Olympics ads, you think about Super Bowl ads, because I think there's like a special contract wise going on with there, but I think Super Bowl has like this kind of um stigma around it that's saying like, oh, it's we have the best ads, and even like all the companies want to jump into that, and if they start jumping in like Timu last year, they want to stay, right? Even though it doesn't really boost, like everybody still knows Timu, right? Everybody knows what Timu's gonna say, but they still are gonna. I think next year's Super Bowl, if they still stay afloat, even with all like the legal issues aside, like if they stay still afloat, they'll definitely go next year. Everybody knows about Timu, so I think it's more like a legacy thing. Like Super Bowl ads are just like different, and if you get in, you want to stay in, and if you're not in, you want to get in, get a piece of that. Like, okay, I've reached this certain milestone in my company, rather than like, oh, I want to use this like an actual ad, because I feel like there's definitely more efficient ways to advertise your company rather than Super Bowl.
Definitely, I agree. One like very specific instance I'm thinking of is like the Dunkin' Donuts ad. Like, um, there's like a bunch of celebrities in that ad. Yet, like the first of all, like I don't think anyone who saw that ad who didn't know Dunkin' before was suddenly like incentivized to go buy coffee from them. I definitely don't think that's the case. At least like on a wide scale. But like it also didn't really have that much to do with like whatever they're selling. It was just so much more about like the branding, so much more about like recognition and making sure like, oh hey, like we are very popular, like don't forget about us kind of thing. I mean, I think that's like honestly what they were trying to get at more than like actually trying to sell more coffees. So I think that was a really interesting point that Ivan brought up. Okay, and so Americans are expected to spend a record $17.3 billion on the 2024 Super Bowl. What do you think they're spending that money on, or like what is it for? And like obviously this is a very like wide range. So think like hospitality costs, or like thinking about like the actual seats at the NFL game, things like that.
Yeah, I'd just like to start off with like the seating costs. Like there's obviously like a lot of like seats available in the new Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada. And as a result, there's a lot of sales of tickets that are for this Super Bowl. So definitely that was like a big chunk of how much Americans are like spending on the Super Bowl. The second thing is it's Las Vegas. So there's gonna be betting happening, and there's gonna be more betting than happening than usual. And I think this year that there was actually a record number set. And I mean, how can you avoid betting if you're in Las Vegas? Like Las Vegas is pretty much the gambling capital of America. You could even argue that's the gambling capital of the world. So naturally, people are going to gamble there, and obviously, sports betting has become increasingly more popular. In pretty much the U.S. and the world is becoming a big, increasing part of like sports culture in America, especially. I know that there are some leagues over in Europe that have actually like I think banned sports betting or limited sports betting, but that doesn't really affect the Super Bowl, right? Like yeah. So I think betting was also like a big case that happened um that like definitely took up like a chunk of like the money that is being spent. Um Obviously we have to talk about hospitality at costs. Like fans need hotels to like unless they live in Las Vegas. Fans basically need like hotels to like keep like they need shelter from anything that could happen. So they need something that could make them feel like at home, and that's what a hotel is for. And obviously with fans flying from all over America, that's definitely very necessary because they don't have it's very unlikely that they have like a relative at Las Vegas that they can like stay over at. So and and obviously I kind of teased this a little bit also, but traveling costs because we obviously saw fans from pretty much all across the United States that wanted to not only go to the Super Bowl, but they have just I this may sound a little bit cringy, but like just having a chance to see Taylor Swift as one of the most like famous like singers, like I don't think there are some fans who are like truly like diehard Swifties and they would never pass up that opportunity. So I'll just say like a lot of people basically my general point is that a lot of people came from around the United States, even some people from around the world that want to see the Super Bowl. And there's definitely some traveling costs that are associated with that because obviously Las Vegas compared to like other cities is like not as populous as like Los Angeles, New York, or Chicago to say, but that means that there's going to be a lot of like traveling coming over to Las Vegas, a lot of tourism things, and that definitely took up also like a big chunk of the spending that happened during the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing is that it's Vegas. Like people want to spend money in Vegas, and like tickets. I think I saw like the seats at the Super Bowl. They're pretty big. Like near the court side, they were like, I don't know, these like kind of like a club like area with the seats, and I know just like they're especially with Allegiant Stadium. Um, Usually like the Raiders don't do too well, but with the Super Bowl, of course, it's very different, and it's just like the energy. Yeah, I saw like I don't know how many times they showed Taylor Swift on the camera, like 10 plus times at least. But they put her, like in their box, they had, like Ice Spice next to her as well. That's kind of crazy. But yeah, so just like the ticket cost is the main thing. I guess talking about sports betting a little bit. I know the Super Bowl is probably one of the most I'm guessing it's one of the most like bet on events, especially just is the main thing. I know people talking about like the Drake curse. I guess that's over because Drake bet on I think he bet $1 million on the Chiefs to win, and they actually won somehow. But yeah, so I get the Super Bowl definitely. Everyone's betting on the Super Bowl. It's just the super big event, and yeah, I think that's how that much money is being spent.
Yeah, I agree. I think sports betting. I know it's like a different topic we can delve into, but I think sports betting was definitely very big. Like I've seen videos of a guy like holding $500,000 in cash and another $500,000 in casino chips, and he went and bet it all. It's like $1 million total on the Super Bowl. So like that's just one person. Like I bet a lot of other people were betting more than that on the Super Bowl. So it's definitely sports betting is an issue. I've also seen clips online. Like it's just a tangent, but like they were betting on how long the national anthem would go, like over or under a minute and 30, and that was pretty funny because there she was going really fast through the national anthem, and in the end she held that note for like 10 seconds, and then everyone was like freaking out because they thought she would go under, but she went over. But I think that was pretty funny. But that also shows like sports betting, like they're betting on anything you see, like betting on a streaker, which also happened. So like I thought sports betting was gonna stay on sports, but I guess you know other things can happen too. But also like Jack said, travel, because I've also seen clips about like after the Super Bowl ended, um, how many private jets left the Las Vegas airport, and you can see like I think like 400 or something just left going through Los Angeles, going to the Bay Area, going to Miami. So like those are popular spots, but they're all flying back. So definitely a lot of money spent on traveling, especially by rich people. We also have a lot of merch. I think merch is definitely a very big part. Like if you're going to Super Bowl, or even if you're watching a Super Bowl at home, you're gonna want merch, right? So if like say I'm a 49ers fan, I'm gonna like say, oh, if I'm going to Super Bowl, right, I'm gonna go ahead and buy like a 49ers hat or a 49ers jersey, right? So definitely a lot of people spend a lot of money on the merch, and like Jack said, and Cowan, like the tickets, extremely expensive, even for like um all like the worst seats. Like I think the worst seats were like $10,000. um and I think also streaming services, because like I think NFL Super Bowl, like they have this weird contract thing that they like switch every other year or something. And this year they switched to like, I forgot what it was called, but like they switched to like a streaming service, and like if you wanted to watch it legally and not sail the high seas, you had to pay that money. And also I think food plays a really big side, because like it's like kind of the generic Super Bowl foods, which is like barbecue and wings, etc. Right? So like if I'm like saying like if I'm hosting Super Bowl, I'm definitely gonna call up like Wingstop to say like, hey, give me like 500 wings or something. Like that means like definitely certain food items would see a boom, because those are like the generic Super Bowl foods like wings and stuff. So that will a lot of money is definitely spent on that too.
Yeah, going back to Ivan's point on sports betting, like I can remember, I'm gonna highlight one specific case of like a bet that was pretty unusual with what later happened. It was Brock Purdy going 12.5 yards over or under on rushing, and that was really funny because when before the last play in the fourth quarter, Brock Purdy had 13 rushing yards. And then obviously he had 3 seconds left, so obviously you're not going to know what to do with that. So he decided to kneel, and that obviously loses 1 yard. So he went down to 12 yards, and as a result, a lot of people got their bets kind of skewed or succeeded. So I personally thought that was really funny and definitely an aspect of the Super Bowl. And and sports betting in general, I think will definitely will come to be a bigger trend in like the Super Bowl culture. But definitely, I don't know about next year. I think it will be less than ne- it will be less than the 2024 Super Bowl just simply because we're not in Vegas anymore. So we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. I think like also the point about like food and like hosting, I think like that's also probably a very, very big cost to factor in. So like all, like your party necessities are like there. There's so many like watch parties. Like I think it's just like a fun family friends event. I know like many Super Bowl get-togethers around me. So I feel like definitely like when you're hosting that, it's not just like, like wings, or it's not just like restaurant food, but there's also like stuff you can just get from like the grocery store. So I think definitely like all those costs kind of like factor in and pile in because like everyone's trying to get ready for this, like one big event. Um, as a last question to finish us off a little bit, the case of Taylor Swift. And obviously, I think she's a very controversial figure, at least in terms of like NFL. So she undeniably has brought in a lot of Swifties who before like, before her relationship with Travis Kelce, they were like, okay, like I don't really care that much about the NFL, like whatever. But then now after like she's been going to all the games and then like obviously Travis Kelce, her boyfriend, is there playing in the Super Bowl. So that just undeniably has brought in a lot of fans who have actually started to watch more NFL games. Like it's not just like, oh, let me just watch the Chiefs, but like it's like, oh, let me keep up with the NFL as a whole. And like that obviously benefits the NFL and like this industry. And to the point where like this Super Bowl was one of the highest watched games. Like, of course, like you can argue there's like many different factors. It's not just like Taylor Swift's impact, but at the same time, I think it's still undeniable to say like she didn't help at least a bit. However, just because the NFL like recognizes how much power she has in converting like her fans into like football fans as well. A lot of like non-Swifty football fans have started to very much like dislike her presence. They like I see like social media posts where it's like, oh my gosh, another Taylor Swift thing. Like, can we just stop seeing Taylor Swift? Or like if the official NFL Instagram account posts something Taylor Swift related, all the comments are just like, yeah, like don't show me this person again, please. Um, and so they just kind of think that she's taking away the spotlight or being just shown too much and it's unnecessary. But solely based on economics and thinking about like what makes the most sense for the NFL or like what makes the most sense for the popularity of this industry, what do you think Taylor Swift's impact is? Or like do you think it's positive or negative? And then also the fact of like the NFL, like a lot of the fans, like even though if they don't like Taylor Swift, are they actually leaving? Like, are they just not watching football anymore? So just like that contrast between like if you were like in charge of the NFL, if you're Roger, like what would you do? Like would you kind of stay like with all the Taylor Swift madness going on, or would you just be like, yeah, like this is too much, like our fans genuinely hate it, like let's stop?
I don't think a fan not liking Taylor Swift will just like this like distract them from like pretty much like going to like any like other game. Like I think maybe if they don't want to see Taylor Swift, maybe they skip like the Chiefs games. But obviously with like I feel like with what Taylor Swift like brings as like a Chiefs fan and also like as like with the fan base around her that is becoming to see the NFL, like I think those could potentially cancel out the effect. So overall, I'm gonna say that Taylor Swift's effect is positive. And her like bringing like a lot of her like audience like non like NFL like or sports people just to bring into the NFL, and that's like pretty impressive in itself, and that's definitely like boosting like that's definitely gonna boost like revenue like numbers and like help definitely the economics of like pretty much the whole situation. And in terms of like I know a lot of people don't like really like Taylor Swift, but are they really fans of the Chiefs? Or I feel like most Taylor Swift most like anti-Taylor Swift fans are fans of other teams, and I don't think that Taylor Swift showing up at NFL games will really like bring like affect the other team like that much. So I think those NFL like fans who don't like Taylor Swift, I think they would keep supporting their team, and as like a whole, like I think her effect has mostly been more positive for the economy. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I guess just in terms of in terms of helping the NFL, economics wise, she's definitely a super huge benefit just because she brings Taylor Swift brings in so many viewers that didn't watch the NFL before. So that's why the NFL tries so hard to keep showing her, keep putting her on that kind of on that main stage. With some NFL fans that are not Taylor Swift fans, they don't like that, but it's just the fact that why would the NFL stop doing something that brings them more money, right? So the NFL is going to keep doing this, unless she and Travis Kelsey break up. But then the NFL is going to keep doing whatever makes them more money. They don't really care that current NFL fans don't maybe don't like that because what are they going to do? They're not going to stop watching the NFL just because Taylor Swift is being shown, right? So I just think that overall it does have a positive impact in terms of the amount of money, amount of views that she brought in. I know this year was definitely record viewership for the NFL.
Yeah, I would definitely agree because even though a lot of NFL fans have a negative sentiment towards Taylor Swift, I believe I think they're more incentivized to watch the game when Taylor Swift is there because they really want to see Taylor Swift losing, right? And even though it's negative, I think especially let's say a Super Bowl, right? That's kind of the thing we're talking about here, but Taylor Swift was definitely one of the highlights because they're oh, Taylor Swift and friends can't win. Brock Purdy, please save us. Or Lamar Jackson, please save us. They're definitely gonna watch it. Now they're even more incentivized to watch it when Taylor Swift is shown. So I think it's as both Jack and Kai Wen said, they're not gonna stop watching when Taylor Swift is shown. That's not a big enough reason to stop watching. The bigger reason to stop watching is the NFL refs rigging the game, but people still watch it even though they do. But so I think adding in Taylor Swift definitely will not impact viewership negatively, but instead will actually be positive because all the Taylor Swift, all the Swifties will definitely come and watch the NFL if Taylor Swift, is in the game, right? And then also Taylor Swift being in the game, they also got a lot of social media traction because of Taylor Swift or Taylor Swift doing this thing oh my god, Taylor Swift did this in the Super Bowl. So so I think it's definitely a very positive thing for NFL, and I can definitely see them continuing this until either it loses popularity because everyone's seen it already, or they break up.
Okay, I just want to add something else. I also think that the claims that Taylor Swift is being shown too much on TV, I do think that it is kind of a little bit BS because obviously the games are 60 each quarter is 15 minutes long, so each game would usually be 60 minutes long, but obviously there's a lot of timeouts. There's obviously a lot of different things that will happen with the games that will extend it way past 1 hour. It could go on for 2 hours or 3 hours. And I think something to keep into account, I think I saw a statistic in which I know this is definitely different for the Super Bowl, the game itself, but for some of the games before, such as the regular season or the playoff games, Taylor Swift was shown for an average of less than 1 minute, and that's on TV. So I think those claims that Taylor Swift is being showed too much is a little bit kind of BS, and I think potentially, I think it's possible that the NFL or whatever streaming service they use will actually feature Taylor Swift more just to appeal to more of that Swiftie audience. And I know that there's going to be a lot of them watching the NFL potentially also starting from next year.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I like Taylor Swift in the NFL, so I think it's a pretty happy medium for me. But yeah, no, I definitely think that it's a smart move on the part of the NFL because football fans, even if you genuinely dislike all the Taylor Swift that's going on, stuff you're not gonna stop watching your team just because this random pop star is there, so I think it makes it it only brings them in followers. They don't care that some random person is spamming their Instagram with, oh, stop showing Taylor Swift comments. They're still gonna watch the games. They're getting new fans. I think that's kind of just a win for them, you know. But that's it for today. I'm your host, Jackie, and thank you guys so much for tuning in with us.